Well, happy meteorological spring. Meteorologists define spring as beginning on March 1st. Well, happy spring. When I was in college, I made a discovery one spring break, but unfortunately, almost 2 decades later, I have yet to make good use of it. To understand what I discovered, you got to go back in time. I was in college. I was still looking for the right girl in my life. I was obviously I had a lot of studies to do, and I often didn't have time to exercise or to do other things in my life. Now, oftentimes I had insomnia. When it was time for me to go to bed, I often wasn't very tired. And then when I finally did get to sleep, there wasn't enough hours to sleep. Often I would toss and turn, and this was back in the mid 2000s. If the TV was on, you would get a bunch of commercials about pills you can take to help you sleep. I didn't want to get involved in that. I don't think it's very healthy to use long term. But that spring break, I accidentally discovered a solution that would solve all of this. I would have plenty of time in the day. I would have enough time to sleep, and I would actually crash when it was time to sleep. I'll let you pause the video to think what the solution was. Well, the solution, which I didn't really intend to do, was I slept a little bit later every night. So at the beginning of spring break, I might have went to bed at my normal time, 10 p.m. The next night, I would go to bed at midnight. And I would crash as soon as my head would hit the pillow because it had been 26 hours since I last slept. I had enough time to sleep. During the daytime, I had enough time to go out to exercise, to go out to look for my future partner. Not that I found anybody interesting, but I got plenty of practice as a result. The problem, of course, was that by the end of spring break, I was going to bed at 9, 10 a.m., and I had a hard time adjusting back. And it drove everybody insane. I think I ended up having to apologize to a bunch of my professors for falling asleep in class and to catch up on stuff. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I actually slept very well during that week, and I actually got plenty of time to sleep. And I wish I could introduce the schedule to everybody else. I'm sure most of my professors would have appreciated having more time to sleep and more time to grade our assignments, among other things, right? And to not have a classroom full of students falling asleep, right? So I encourage you to think about this schedule. This will become even more important if we leave the planet altogether, right? The 24-hour day doesn't really make sense by the time we get to Mars. Actually, Mars has a day that's much more agreeable to me. During the lockdowns, I actually downloaded a clock for Mars, and I tried to follow the schedule, and I felt really good, even though it was only an extra 40 minutes. The other schedule I sometimes love to follow is the tidal day. So the moon goes around the Earth every 28 days, obviously. So every day it takes longer. It takes about 50 minutes longer for the moon to return to where it was the previous day. And so the tidal day is 24 hours and 50 minutes. I sometimes love that schedule, especially if I'm going to be viewing the phases of the moon. I had a time when I was out of work, not COVID related, but I was out of work and I was frequenting church, and I wanted to help the church with photography, and I wanted to get the moon in the picture of the church. And I spent a month taking pictures of the moon setting behind the church. So it was an hour later every day. And during that month, I followed the tidal day schedule. I felt so good during the time. Not because I had extra time from being out of work. I was spending a lot of time writing a publication and all that. I felt so good because I actually crashed when I went to sleep. I didn't toss and turn. And I don't have an insomnia problem. I just sleep differently. And it makes me wish that more people would recognize this, right? After all, nobody really has an insomnia problem. We just need to collaborate, that's all. Now, right now as I speak, in early 2023, there's a great resignation, quiet quitting kind of movement. A lot of people are calling for a 4-day week. But you know what? The reason that I would assume a lot of people want a 4-day week is to have a 3-day weekend. But those two things don't have to be at odds. You can have a 3-day weekend and work 5 days, right? As long as everybody will agree to do that. And I think that would be a lot more agreeable to most businesses. I actually just set out a calendar to show what it would look like. So we could just insert a date to the week, and you would hardly lose any working days. In fact, you might not lose all that many because there's plenty of holidays dispersed through the year anyway, right? We could just assign all the holidays to that extra day of the week, right? So I'll let you chew on that thought. Now here's another thing that hit me. We just obviously started a new year. I can't believe we're already 2 months into the year. But everybody seems to start the year with a throng, right? New Year's resolutions, new healthy habits. And it makes me wish we did that more often. So it makes me think, why does a year have to take so long, right? If we could have regular check-ins more frequently than once a year, it would encourage more people to think about ways to rejuvenate themselves. And then I started to think what would be a good period. Now remember, we're going to be a multi-planetary species, so the 365-day year might not make so much sense when you go to Mars, and it certainly won't make any sense at all when you leave the solar system, right? And you can't even see the Earth anymore. So I wondered what period of time would be roughly a year, hopefully shorter, but universal across different solar systems and even galaxies. I'll let you pause the video to think about it. And then it hit me, if we take the lightest element that is strongly radioactive, that would be polonium. It has a half-life of 138 days. We could make that our new check-in period, right? Every 138 days, we could make some resolutions, and we would have a whole lot more birthdays, a whole lot more Christmases, and everybody would be more joyous, right? Anyways, I encourage you to think about our timekeeping schedule. You can always think outside the box, right? Days and months and years and weeks don't have to be what they are, right? And they can be even more universal than they already are.